All right, welcome to Tippatina's. My name is Tank. We're at the empty venue of Tippatina's here. Thank you to Tippatina's for letting us host this here, and Nugs.net for the use of their equipment. And welcome to the whatever this show is called, to be named later, TBD. We'll go ahead and mark that down.
That's the name of the show.
That is the name of the show, TBD, I guess. With me today, I have a dear friend of mine, husband, father, financial panther, pedal steel guitar player, Ed Williams of the Revivalists and Rumpelstiltskin. Ed Williams, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, yeah. All right, everybody calm down.
No, calm down. People, sit. We'll get to the phone calls and questions later. So let's start the obvious. You're in the Revivalists, but let's go back. Not from New Orleans. You were born and raised in New York City, if I'm not mistaken.
I was actually born in Dallas and
Really?
moved to New York City when I was 2.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know.
So you grew up in Manhattan?
Yeah, I grew up on 96th and 3rd.
All right.
And then as I got older, we moved a little more downtown.
All right.
Moving on up.
Moving on downtown. Is your family still there in New York?
Yes, my mom, my brother, my sister, and then I got a bunch of family in Dallas, too. So.
Okay. All right. That's nice. And you are the pedal steel guitar player for the Revivalists, but that's not your first instrument, is it?
No. My first one was violin, actually. And I quit that in 7th grade when all my friends started making fun of me, which was dumb because I would have been killing the violin by now.
Yeah? Were you any good? Were you a good violin player?
You know, I mean, for a 6th grader, I was crushing. You know?
Okay.
I don't know. I was all right. Then I picked up guitar. Girls still didn't like me. You know what I mean? So,
they didn't even like you when you were originally a guitar player? The guitar players get all the chicks, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But
Except for you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I actually found my voice until I started playing the pedal steel.
Okay. But you also played piano and trumpet, right?
Yeah, played piano and trumpet growing up just for a couple years, just in like band. You know, I didn't have the lungs for it. Everybody says pedal steel is hard. Man, trumpet is hard.
Pedal steel is easy. You get to sit the whole time.
I know. It's my favorite.
I see you standing up during your shows and do the thing with
the easiest way to get a rise out of the crowd. So I just have to stand up.
Yeah, no. It's like what I was sitting. What's the big deal? You know.
Yeah. So I got that going for me.
Well, yeah. Do you come from a musical family? Did your parents push you into it at all, or was it just kind of you wanted to play and so you started playing?
My dad played guitar in a band growing up.
Okay.
But nobody really pushed me into it. They were supportive. You know, when we started getting more successful, they were more supportive.
Well, when you left New York City to come to Tulane University, right?
Yeah.
They did not specifically send you to Tulane to hey, he'll be in a rock band one day, fingers crossed.
So, once we started actually paying our bills, my parents were like, okay, well, we're cool with this.
All right. Well, to move back just a little bit, you didn't join the band immediately out of college, did you? You were working in a different field entirely.
I was working in finance for a couple years. I had a great boss. He allowed me to, literally he's one of the guys that made this happen because he allowed me to tour and allowed me to work from the road when I could, as long as I got my work done.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for
you were
that.
working in finance and still touring with the Revivalists.
Oh, yeah.
This is still everyone piling a bus tour, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. Or in a van. In a van,
try
sorry.
a Chevy 1500.
Yeah, sorry. I meant bus van.
I would be on calls all day, driving around in the van. All the guys used to make fun of me because I'd have to tell them, shut up, I'm calling the bank. Everybody needs to shut up. Nobody say a word. And then I would play all night and then get up at 6 in the morning and do finance and then, play music at night. I didn't get a lot of sleep back then.
Well, did you think that music was going to be your career? Or were you were still doing the finance, maybe, like you said, to pay the bills? You weren't a father yet, and I assume you probably didn't own a house or anything. You were just a kid out of college,
I was just,
right?
I was just rocking it, man.
Yeah. Okay.
No. I know it was something that I wanted to try because I feel like if I didn't, I would regret it later.
Okay.
I didn't want to look back when I was 50, working a desk job and been maybe that could have happened. So basically I was I'm going to take this shot and if it doesn't work out, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I had enough confidence in myself to if this failed, I'll come up with something else.
Okay. Well, it obviously did not fail. The Revivalists are a world famous band now. The original, the story goes that I think Zach met Dave while he was riding his bike down, whatever street in Mid-City.
Yeah.
They happened upon each other. Hey, you sound pretty good. Do you want to jam sometime? The band starts to form and little pieces start to come in. You weren't one of the first original members, though, were you?
No. It was a 4-piece back when it was a college band. And then Rob and I got added during the first full-length album, our sax player.
So you joined to be on the album, or were you already touring with them at all?
I was playing shows with them, when I could. It was pretty loosey-goosey back then. You know what I mean? Like we weren't, there wasn't like structured tours or anything like that. It was like, let's go play where we come from. Like we'd go play Hamilton, where Dave's from. We'd play New York, where me and Zach are from. Or
I was wondering, what were your early markets outside of New Orleans that you started noticing?
I mean, that's one advantage to having so many people in the band.
You guys are from all over. Yeah, you're from. There's 8 of you guys from 6 different cities, right?
Yeah, so we would basically play to our friends. And that's what we did for a while until it caught on, and we'd go to Pensacola. Because it was so close, and we would do, a weekend a month at this place called Bamboo Willie's, which was, this little place out there. And that's where we really cut our teeth, because we would do 3 days in a row, 3-hour sets. We didn't even have the material for it. We'd have to like play the songs at the end that we started with, assuming that maybe there was some turnover.
Yeah, these people were not here at the beginning. We can pull this one off
and
again.
You know what? If they were, whatever, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can play whipping post twice. No one's gonna say anything, right? Well, you mentioned playing in front of, not having or building your audience. I know early on, you guys were managed by Howie at the Wolf, and a lot of your early gigs, a lot of your early gigs were opening up for Rebirth Brass Band.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. What was it difficult to win over an audience that wasn't there to see whatever it was that you guys were putting out there?
Yes, but as long as you got a couple, then that's fine. And that's not even like Rebirth is not the same type of music that we play, but I feel like that's every opening band's problem. Is how do you win over the people here that aren't there to see you? Yeah,
well, I mean, not only, not that they weren't there to see you, but, when you have a Rebirth Brass Band, you expect something very brassy or maybe just a funk band or something a little more hip-hop elemented to be opening up. And you guys are none of that. I mean, you feature 2 brass instruments, but I would not consider your music brassy,
That was like our first touring experience, was going out with Rebirth, and they were so supportive. The band was. They really liked us. Like, I remember, one of the first shows we played with them, I think we were in Chicago or something. I think Zach went up to him and said, I just want to say thank you for letting us open up for you and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, man, we all know what's going to happen. Eventually, we're going to be opening for you, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But they were just they were so supportive, and I don't know what we would have done if they weren't, that supportive of us taking us out. They didn't have to do that, and they did.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, the people that were coming to see them while you were opening for them, they were looking for brass music, and they get stuck with the Revivalists. What is this? It's a rock and roll band. It's got all these people. Were there any horror show gigs where it's like, man, this is a total crapshoot. I can't believe these people aren't gonna literally come up and start pulling our instruments out of our hands to get us out of here.
I mean that. Nobody ever booed.
Okay,
so,
that's good.
I mean, but yeah, there were definitely some situations when nobody had heard of us, but we'd be
openers
playing
often play to an ambivalent crowd.
Or like in Atlanta, you know what I mean? It's we'd be playing and we'd get a couple people, you know what I mean? But as we were really just trying to figure out how to be a band back then and tour. And we were just happy for the opportunity to do that. And if we won over, like literally, we would go out into the crowd for our email list, and we'd get emails ourselves. You know what I mean? And people would write down fake emails, and we were like, why even bother?
Yeah, you can say no, thank you.
Just say no. But, you know, those are, I mean, every band goes through situations like that. I think everybody who's trying to create something out of nothing is going to go through those roadblocks. You know what I mean? Where you, I don't want to say you doubt. It's not about doubting yourself. You know you're doing the right thing, but it's about circumstance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you're just trying to align everything to make it successful. And really, it's like a roller coaster. It's like you're chugging up, click, 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 click. But then as soon as you get to the top, it's like, you know, and once it goes, it goes.
The band had started while a lot of members were still in school. Is that right?
Yeah, there was a couple of guys, like when the 4-piece started, they were all in college. Dave actually had graduated and moved down from...
I was going to say, he's the only one that did not go to college down here, right?
He went to Ohio State.
Okay.
And then he moved down here because he wanted to get in the music scene. And then he met Zach. And Zach and George were still in college. They're they're the young ones. Dave's a little bit older than me, but then, you know, I'm number 2. So me and Dave were already out of college. I was working, and how we all met, I don't even know. You know?
Were you in any other bands before Revivalists that were
I
like
was
a proper outfit?
I don't know if you'd call us proper, but I was in a college band called the Zoo. We all went to Tulane.
Yeah.
You know, that was like just you're playing for fun to be with your friends. And I had a lot of fun with those guys, but you know, to be a good band is work. And
yeah, I mean, you guys had to commit. I mean, like I said, you know, the van days, like people look at what you're doing now and you're playing to, you know, a sold out Red Rocks or whatever else, like they forget that there was a lot of years of sleeping on floors and not eating food. You know, eating, you know, food that was just sitting out from last night, you know.
10 years to be an overnight success is really what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I want to get into that a little bit with some hit singles that were released, and then later on down the road, they start turning into massive successes. But you know, you're opening for bands like Rebirth, but then how do you slide into starting to tour opening for bands like Government Mule, which was still within a few years of starting a band, you're doing national tours, playing for a huge national band.
Yeah, that was our first big boy band tour.
Okay.
Was Government Mule and Steph Scamardo, who was we made the jump from Howie and Stu to Steph at Hardhead Management. And, you know, she kind of took us to the big show.
Okay.
And you know, Warren, we call him Uncle Warren, man. He was so supportive.
You know, I met him once on the sidewalk out here. I love him so much, and I love the band so much. To me, he's just like an angel on earth. You know?
I swear to God, he is like a true, genuine person, which is rare in this industry. But I was having lunch with him. I think it was at Hangout Festival. We were just sitting at the table, and everybody that came up to him, he remembered their name. He would ask about their wife. You know, he was just such a genuine person, and would ask, you know, questions. How you doing? Blah blah blah. And most people wouldn't bother. You know, if you're Warren Haynes, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, you kind of want to, you know, leave him alone or whatever, or you know, well, at least not leave him alone from his aspect. Like, he probably meets so many people for how many decades now.
Well, the best,
he's big enough that not that he can get away with being a jerk, but
no, the best players have nothing to prove. And
yes,
that's why they're amazing people.
Yes.
You know, they have no chip on their shoulder. Like Roosevelt Collier, who's one of my
another
heroes.
phenomenal guitar player,
unbelievable, and he's the nicest guy on the planet because he has nothing. He knows.
Everyone who's seen him play knows how great he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so I you know, every once in a while you kind of meet somebody like that in this industry where like they're the best and they're amazing humans, and you know, it's amazing to see.
Are there any pedal steel players out there that you look at as icons, like guys you look up to, like the Roosevelt Colliers or a Robert Randolph or someone like that?
Yeah, Roosevelt, Robert, you know, those two guys are some of my heroes. The Campbell brothers.
Okay.
Chuck Campbell and Derek Campbell. Derek just passed, which was sad. But AJ Gent, I feel like is probably the most. He's probably the best best steel player that you haven't heard of.
Okay, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, he's from a family that the Gent family is like huge in the pedal steel community.
All right.
And he sings like Prince, and he plays like Robert and Rosie. He's an incredible player.
That's phenomenal. You mentioned the word sing. I understand that you also wanted to be a singer at one point, but then managed to find an instrument that sounds like singing instead in the pedal steel.
Well, I feel like everybody would like to sing, but we don't all have it.
Okay. I would not like to sing. That's okay.
Yeah,
but I don't play an instrument either.
The steel guitar was, like I said, it was something when I started playing it, and the people that I tried to emulate, like Rosie, Robert, Derek, Chuck, I found like a voice, which is something I didn't have on guitar or trumpet or violin or anything like that. Maybe it's because I didn't really put the true effort into it. Like when I started playing the pedal steel, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And I played like 8 hours a day. And
just like a band, that's what it takes. It's
I would watch
job
TV and I'd run scales, and that's how I learned how to play. I'd do that all night.
The versatility of a pedal steel is something that is often overlooked, I would think, also.
You can make it sound like anything.
Yeah.
You really can. If you can make it sound like a human voice, you can make it sound like anything else.
Yeah. I was going to say it works in harmony with so many different instruments. You can go back and forth with percussion, guitar, with the singer, with whoever, with the horns. Is there any instrumentation that it's difficult to play with?
It's just about how you play. You know what I mean? Like if I was going to play like C6 swing, like country swing, I wouldn't be able to do that as well as, the country swing players.
Okay.
But I play the way that I play. But, could you say that about saxophone, for example? You know what I mean? Like, say, is there a type of music that saxophone doesn't work with? But it's just like
indie
how you
Celtic punk.
Oh,
yeah.
Sax would rock that
I don't know. I was just trying to put words together to see what would happen.
But I think it's just about the player more than the instrument. Everybody searches for a voice, and whatever it is that you wind up having that voice on, and the way you play, like saxophone was, big band, and then it started getting into rock. Now it's all over EDM. Nobody would have thought about that.
Yeah.
20 years ago that it would be huge in electronic music, but it is. And that's just about the way it's utilized.
I think the technology is definitely pushing a lot of those things forward as well. Like now you see, like you said, with big band, a saxophone player in a big band is just playing straight saxophone. Now sax players have their own pedal boards, and they're doing a lot of different things.
Well, we've been trying to get Rob to get a pedal board, but he just, he crushes. He just does his thing. But, like a lot of the ways that I get, crazy synth sounds is because of the electronics that I'm using. So, it's anything you can add to your arsenal is a plus.
And you guys have certainly done that with how you've grown the band to 8 guys now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 8 guys for a couple of years now.
Yeah, we added PJ a couple years ago.
He's crushing. Like having that backup percussion is phenomenal.
He's one of those guys that has nothing to prove and is an amazing human.
Yes, absolutely.
At this point, you'd have to be a crusher and an amazing human to get added to this band.
Well, but that's just it. You guys are all of those things, and aside from all that, like just very swell fellas. Like you're just a nice group of guys on top of it all.
Well, I feel like that's the hardest part of being in a band is, like George likes to say, everybody asks, like, what's it like touring with your best friends? George is like, no, I'm touring with 7 wives is really what I'm touring with, and like you have to be able to get along, and everybody needs to be motivated.
Yeah.
I've seen amazing bands break up because the bass player or whoever is like, nah, I don't have the commitment to do this for 6 years.
It's almost pettiness or ego or something small that grows.
No, it's just really tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's or maybe that can happen too. Like there's a disagreement or something like that. You got to learn what buttons not to push.
Absolutely.
For everybody, but really, it's a tough job until it's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very hard, and the reason why we got where we are is because we were all completely single-minded, motivated. We were going to make this happen, and we did it the hard way. You know, we toured 200 gigs a year.
Yeah.
Forever, $100 in a pizza. Like Ben Elman, you know, he says you're going to get $100 in a pizza for a decade.
Yeah.
And then eventually
another band that has great success, like people forget that they've been around for over 25 years.
I know.
There was a lot of sleeping on people's floors and a lot of favors pulled just to get from one city to the next sometimes.
We literally would ask on stage, does anybody have a floor that we could sleep on?
Snowing, is there a garage we can park in here?
I've slept on every type of floor you could possibly think of.
Yeah.
You know, love seats, just bathtub, whatever. You know, the problem is when you do that, they all want to party with the band, and you're just like, I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I imagine it gets old pretty quickly sometimes, especially when you're at a stranger's house who was very nice to let you in there, but you don't want anything to do with them really. You just need to close your eyes for like 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, or 5 or 6 minutes, really.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned recording briefly. You know, the first album is you guys were recording on that or touring on that for a while. Called Vital Signs, right?
Yeah.
And then you made City of Sound. Was it City of Sound was the second album, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and but that was the one that Ben Elman from Galactic helped you produce some of the songs on that.
He did that one, and you know, Ben's great at what he does. He really understands the band, which is hard to do. You know, I think back then we were still just a 6-piece. You know, what do? You got a 4-piece, you got a pedal steel player, you got a sax. Who does what? But you know, he got it, and you know, he did right by us because he really understood what we were trying to do.
What was it like when you guys first started going into the studio? You did your first EPs just on your own dime, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what was it like when you were, you know, working with someone like Ben Elman, who had been in the business for a little while? When you started gaining enough notoriety to have the big guys, you know, the big brothers help out the little brothers. You know, what was that like?
Yeah, no, they're Galactic is our big brother band. You know, we've looked up to them for a long time, even before Ben produced us. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a transition when you get into a big room. I think we recorded at the Shed. And Ben, who's, you know, he. I think a producer is there to tell you, like, to be like a voice of reason. Like, if you have a crazy idea that you want to go down for 3 hours, he just goes, no, not happening. You know, and or if you're like, oh, I want to do this again, he's like, it's fine, we're moving on.
Okay.
You know, like you kind of need that structure, or else we're just gonna be twiddling away for like 12 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I guess you just have to be spinning your wheels.
Yeah, it was definitely a jump to like, you know, the big show, like getting into a big room like that and being in a room with Ben. And I think he was very good at like structuring the material. Because, you know, I mean, when we first started, we would have like 6-minute solos and all this stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, we still do that live.
Well, you're trying to, you know, the earliest, sometimes the recording mistakes, you know, it's not a mistake to try and capture what you do live on an album, but you're never going to really hit that nail on the head all the way.
Yeah,
you need someone to help you whittle it down to something that is in this format.
Well, I think one thing that Ben really drove home to us was, okay, I get it. You all like to solo. You know what I mean? You all like to solo a lot.
Yeah.
But you can do that. But you don't need to do it on this. You could do that live, and that could be part of your live show. And you can take a 30-second solo and expand it into 42 minutes if you want to. But just let the album be the album, and let the live show be the live show.
Absolutely.
And we've lived by that. You know.
Well, and this is about the time when you started, you know, being able to tour on your own name, though, too. Like, is this when you guys were playing your own headlining gigs and being able to do a run of cities where you were headlining your own clubs? Like, you were headlining your own dates, not just opening for a Government Mule or Rebirth or whoever else.
I think that was, like, kind of the time where there was, like, real peaks and valleys. Like we would play a show in LA with, Government Mule, and we would play a sold out huge show, but the next day we'd play to 3 people. You know what I mean?
Really?
In like Pasadena or something.
Oh,
you know
wow.
what I mean?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen you guys in any other cities. I've only seen you around New Orleans, and I definitely distinctly remember, early gigs when it'd be you and a couple other bands, and there would be 150, 200 people, like mostly your friends and whoever else in the early days. And then just all of a sudden it went from 150 people to like, oh, there was 250 people. Oh man, we had to open upstairs. There was 450 people, and it got bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
to
it's
me
all about
personally,
building markets.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is your hometown, so you're going to be playing here, at least half a dozen, 10 times a year back then. I distinctly remember, and I don't know if it's the same type of memory for you. You guys were playing Friday of Mardi Gras here at Tippatina's, and it was the first time you guys had sold out Tippatina's.
That was a great show.
And it was the first time in a long time we had a sellout on that Friday, which has typically been like some years on and off. It also peaks and valleys. That Friday of Mardi Gras can be a difficult night uptown for some reason. And we hadn't had a lot of luck the previous year or two on the Friday shows. But then when the Revivalists played and it sold out, these guys aren't kids anymore. Like, they're, pardon me for the language. You're pissing in the tall grass with the big dick dogs by now,
I remember, I don't know if you remember when, I'd come to the shows. I was like broke back in the day.
Yeah.
And I'd be playing. And I remember there was a certain point, it might have been right around that time, where you were like, I was waiting in line and you were like, Ed, you earned it. Side stage.
Yeah. No.
You were like,
when
come
you
on,
sell
you're
out
part of the
tips,
big boys
there's
now.
no more waiting in line, I guess,
like,
once you start selling the place out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't have to wait in line once you sell us out, I guess. Don't to everyone at home, like, don't tell. Shortly after this, a couple of years in, when you're starting to see like some real success and real turnaround from, you're hitting all these markets and you're doing it smart and you're hitting these same cities, you play them once and you go back within another 6-8 months or something like that, hit them again, keep the audience interested, and you record another album, Men Amongst Mountains. Tell me about recording that album.
That was it's tough when you kind of like, you kind of have a slump of material. A lot of bands do, but I feel like we didn't have that at all.
What do you mean a slump of material?
Like, you spend your whole life writing your first record, and
okay,
then your second and third record you write in a year. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah,
so,
I understand, yeah.
Like, you kind of have this slump.
There's a
of
deadline on art all of a sudden.
We got to go. You've spent your entire childhood and everything growing up. But you've been playing this. I wrote this song when I was 11. You know what I mean? And,
you've been working on this song for 15 years.
And then all of a sudden now, go. You got to get this out. And we were worried about that, but that actually didn't happen to us, which I was really happy about because, we all like to write.
And when you have this many creative writing forces in one group, it's not just a 3 or a 4 piece. When you're not getting leaned on quite as hard, everyone can contribute a little easier sometimes.
Everybody contributes too.
Yeah.
Like there's Dave, Zach, Ed, George, all of us have songs, and whether it's music or lyrics or even just a riff or whatever, but everybody's contributing. So I think maybe it's just a personal thing. I don't know what the other guys felt, but I was a little worried about, are we going to have the material? But I mean, we had it, so that was like kind of a relief for me to go in and record that and not have that, weigh down on us.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it was like the opposite. I was like, we were just now getting into our groove, you know what I mean? And kind of refining, like we refined it even more, you know what I mean? Like as you go, I don't want to say it's, I don't want to say it's about production. It's more about like knowing yourself and what you contribute and how you guys work together to get a song. And it's really, everybody's got to put the ego to the side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you go into the studio, which is hard, but we've been pretty good at that. So.
Well, and you're all smart guys too, so you're smart
we're
enough to
friends.
know when you're standing in your own way or not.
Yeah. So if somebody got a bit of an ego, we would just we'd stomp that out pretty quick.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I know
that's what buddies do to each other.
If I got a bit of an ego, trust me, they stomp.
For sure. So you record that album, and then the slow build, like I mentioned earlier, like a delayed success. A year or so later, all of a sudden, the song "Wish I Knew You" had slowly started to catch fire all over the country. What was that like? I mean, a number one song.
I mean, it's it's a dream. I
Yeah.
mean, it's literally like what we had been working towards, and you never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, you guys weren't writing that song being like, "This one's going to be our smash hit."
Like Dave wrote that song, and when we were playing it, I was like, "This is a great song."
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody in the room was like, "This is going to make us." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it did.
Well, you're talking about in the recording studio.
Yeah, when we're recording it, we're like, "Oh, I like this song a lot," but I don't think any of us knew what was going to happen.
Well, I'm sure throughout the years, even up until then, you guys had written dozens of songs. There were probably songs that you liked better than that song that you kind of wished were a little more popular, got more recognition.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
it's
the
it's
dice
the random,
rolls how they roll.
It's a kind of fate.
Yeah.
But again, that one is a slow build, and not till a year or two later did it hit number one. You guys had probably not cast it out, because I know it was, at least around here and in many markets, getting a lot of regular airplay. I remember around then, I started having friends from around the country like, "Oh man, I've been listening to a lot of New Orleans music lately." And I'm like, "Really? Who you been checking out?" And they say, "Oh, this band called the Revivalists." I'm like,
yeah, it's like, I know those dudes.
Yeah, I know those guys. Like, it's not a specific New Orleans. So when they say it, like when someone says, "I've been listening to a lot of New Orleans music,"
or
you're
jazz
thinking of funk or a brass or a jazz, whatever else. I'm like, I mean, these guys are a rock band. Like, this is one of those things that is helping build rock and roll back in New Orleans. I talked with my buddy Sig on this show of shows recently, and I was kind of crediting him with he was one of the guys who helped build Voodoo Fest into what it is, and that was one of those things that helped maintain not just an alternative rock audience, but like a rock and roll form of music in here in this city that is not known for rock and roll anymore.
Voodoo Fest is a great festival, and I think we are a rock band. But one thing about living in New Orleans is that I've realized is there's a huge metal scene here too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Huge metal scene.
Absolutely.
You got metal, you got jazz, you got rock, all these things. But if you're in New Orleans, it's like there's something about this town. It just kind of gets in your blood and the way you play. You know what I mean? Like, we are a rock band, but we're a rock band from New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, you get elements of funk and jazz and blues and everything else. Southern rock, especially with a pedal steel, that definitely hints at Southern rock and roll a lot of times.
I mean, there's
and
something
soul
about this city,
and gospel
man.
and everything.
I mean, you can tell a New Orleans band. Really, what it is like, if you're trying to make it in New Orleans, you need to be a cat. You got to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as soon as you're accepted into that, and everybody's very uplifting.
This is a building community of musicians.
Yeah. Like it's Nashville's an amazing city, and LA too, and New York, but sometimes it kind of feels like people are kind of climbing over each other.
There's definitely more of a cutthroat aspect.
Exactly. New Orleans, it's not like that.
I think it comes. There's like I mentioned amongst the band, there's an ego and a jealousy of, man, that band stinks. Why can't we play that gig or whatever else? Or we're better than them. And you do not see that around here. Hank from the Maple Leaf has a great quote, and I don't even know if he's the one who said it first, but New Orleans has one band with 3,000 members. So
yeah, I love that. That's great.
That's about as good. I mean, you can put so many any two different types of musicians that have completely different backgrounds on the same stage, and they're going to be able to put a set together.
New Orleans, it's one of those towns, like, you walk half a block, you're going to hear somebody who's really good.
Yeah.
You got Frenchmen. Like, any day, I would go see Papa Grows Funk Mondays at the Maple Leaf, or I'd see them here, and damn if they didn't blow my mind.
Yeah, they're putting out
Monday.
On a Monday for 65 people.
Yeah,
and they're putting out some of the best live music in the world on that day of the week, I'm sure.
Yeah, so New Orleans is just one of those towns where it just breeds players.
Absolutely.
And people move here. Like Dave. He was like, I want to be part of this music scene. where should I go? I'm glad he came to New Orleans instead of Nashville or L.A. But,
Yeah.
But he's like, I like that vibe. I want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think it's one of the only real like unique cultures left in the country. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that for sure. There's not a whole lot of places like it in the world, let alone in the United States, for sure. We are our own little independent nation.
Yeah, and take the good with the bad for all that stuff. We got great music, but you can't drive a block without hitting a pothole. So.
Yeah, my street's totally jacked up.
Oh, mine's ridiculous.
So again, "Wish I Knew You" is crushing it on the charts, and it's crushing it on the television as well, being on the Blue Moon commercials.
Yeah.
Just kind of out of nowhere, one time I'm in the kitchen and the TV's on, and I hear this song, and I know the song, and I walk over and it's on a commercial. Like, what was that like? All of a sudden your song is in everyone's house across the country. I know specifically the first time I heard it,
I had forgotten that we had gotten that sync because I'm an idiot. I don't.
Well,
know.
you're not. You have a manager that gets that kind of gig for you.
Well, we don't. We all did yay, but then we
hey,
went back to work.
Yeah.
So we're on tour. I'm at a hotel room, Comfort Inn or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm brushing my teeth.
Yeah, you're not on someone. So you guys were at least elevated enough to not be sleeping on someone's
Hampton
garage
Inn,
floor.
That's my stuff right there. I love
sorry,
a good Hampton
Mr.
Inn.
Rockefeller. Jeez. Yeah.
But I'm sitting in the bathroom. I'm brushing my teeth, and the commercial comes on, and it just didn't click to me because I'm watching Comedy Central, something like South Park, something like that. Brush my teeth, and I'm like, I know this song. What song is this? And
what song?
I just, didn't click in my mind. And then I go and I look at the TV and it's Blue Moon. I go, oh, it's us.
I forgot. We got to do a commercial.
It's like,
right.
I forgot about that. Yeah. But yeah, that was actually a pretty amazing feeling to be like, I'm sitting here in my Hampton Inn on my bed, and I'm watching South Park, and our song comes on. It's like now I go shopping at Whole Foods. I swear to God, every time I'm there, I hear us.
Yeah, I hear the song all over the place. I hear it at the airport. I hear it, like I said, it's a #1 song. So it has definitely crossed the boundary of just a typical regional hit. Yeah. Like it is.
I used to poke people, be like, "Is this me?
This is me. Hey, that's me.
Hey, it's me right now.
Shh, this is my part.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on. I'm about to go right now." But I don't do that anymore.
No, it stops being cool after the first couple times, I'm sure. But it is, it's a prevalent hit and it's all over the place. And it's not your only hit for sure, but it's definitely like that first one that is, going to kind of keep you guys.
We thought we
had forever
hits before that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that turned out to be the one.
Yeah, you guys had a ton of great songs before that. And to this day, I'm not going to say what it is. It is not my favorite Revivalist song.
And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And a lot, our true fans, they say that too.
It's a good song. It's catchy. It's got all the stuff that you want especially out of a hit. That it's a pleasure to know that there's something with real musicianship that's coming from people I know that is out there that millions of people are familiar with.
And really what happened is you're waiting at the deli, our number got called.
Yeah.
And then that's what happened and we're, thankful that it did. But doesn't mean you're not sitting around with a bunch of other tickets, thinking that those are going to be called, but they aren't.
No. I mean,
and you know what? The more that I think about it, like I've thought about this a lot. I think if we had a hit before that, it wouldn't have been good for us.
You just think the timing of when it happened?
Yeah, the time because.
Well, again, it was a hit well after you had put out the album.
Yeah, not only that, 10 years after we've been a band.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of times it takes, like you said, for 10 years you're going to be playing for $100 in pizza.
But it's basically like if you see a lot of bands that it goes both ways. There's bands that put out their first single and they're huge and they're a great band that's great. But there's a lot of bands where they put a song out, it gets huge. They don't know how to be a band. Yeah. You know what I mean? They play shows.
Yeah, they're forming their band identity while they're famous.
While they're famous.
Yeah.
Which is so tough. Mm-hmm. I think "Wish I Knew You" came at the perfect right time because we knew who we were. Mm-hmm. We knew how to put on a good show. and so we were able to back up the album. Like, when you're listening to a song on the radio, you're like, oh, I like that song. I'm going to go see them live.
Yeah.
When you see them live and they suck, you don't want to listen to that song anymore.
No, it's a disappointment. Again, not to talk about me. I've been working here long enough. I've seen, a couple thousand shows. It's disappointing when they disappoint,
Yeah, and you know what? We cut our teeth, and then Wish I Knew You happened, and we were confident enough to, if you put us in front of a crowd, we're going to do something.
Yeah, you're going to, entertain them. Talking about the Blue Moon commercial, and I wish I had some of the beers here. You guys had the Revivalist Pale Ale brewed in partnership with the New Orleans Lager and Ale Brewing Company.
Yes.
NOLA Brewery, dear friends of ours as well. Tell me a little bit about that, because that was to raise money. Was that for Roots of Music?
Yes, which is dear to our heart. We really love Roots of Music. We love their
wonderful program,
their vision.
We bought the last 15 cases of it. I think it's out of brew now.
The Revivalist beer?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I don't know if they're still making it. I don't know if they're still canning it. They might still be making it.
Well, we did it for charity for a little bit, and we took over the Rebirth Pale Ale.
Yeah, they're the Rebirth Pale Ale.
Yeah, so everything's for charity.
Which was also Roots of Music. It was all for Roots
also
of Music.
Also for Roots of Music. I think Boyfriend is now the new one.
Okay.
I don't know what her charity is, but it's a great thing because you get to give to charity and drink
and have your own beer. Like, how cool is to have your own beer?
That was a pretty awesome feeling to be like, I have a beer now with my band's name on it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like when you first get that first album with your name on it, with the credits. It's like a big accomplishment.
No, very much. I remember when I had a coffee cup size named after me, the Tank. I think it was 44 ounces of iced coffee. It's called the Tank.
About right.
Yeah. Not nearly as cool.
But yeah,
but
Dylan, cool. Who runs NOLA Brewery, is
they are our official hand sanitizer sponsor. Tanner, get that in the camera. It's the most delicious of hand sanitizers. Thank you, Dylan, and all the fine folks over there.
Don't drink it.
Yeah, I probably don't drink it. I don't think it's safe. I mean,
it does kind of look like whiskey.
Does it say not to drink it? I don't know. It doesn't actually say not to drink it, but I don't think you should.
Does mouthwash say not to drink it?
Oh, you know what?
No, not to drink.
It's for external use only. That's right.
All right, there you go. But yeah, I mean, that was a great, great experience. I'm the only IPA drinker in the band. It was kind of like my thing that I took under my wing. Dylan's a good buddy of mine.
Yeah, you're closest with Dylan, so you get to be like, oh, come on. Yeah. Make it for me.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to fill in the IPA spot. The rest of the guys don't really like IPAs, so we went with an APA.
Yeah, I think this was their second pale ale, maybe their third. Like, they'd only had maybe Hopatulis before that.
Yeah, well, the Rebirth Pale Ale.
Well, yeah, I guess it was pretty much.
So they were trying to fill that void that, you have the cycle. And I think Boyfriend's a pale ale, too. So that's like kind of their thing.
It's like you said, filling the pale ale void.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Boyfriend, because I believe that you often participate as the backup band for Boyfriend as well.
Which it's a show of amazement.
For anyone who doesn't know, Boyfriend is the goddess of rap cabarets. I don't know how else to give a good title for that.
Incredible person.
Yeah, phenomenal show. Like it's a show.
So much fun.
It's a show. It's not just a musical experience.
We were actually going to do the Boyfriend.
We were going to do it here. Not like I said, we shouldn't talk too much about current events, but that COVID, we had an awesome jazz fest. Probably one of our best jazz fest lineups ever.
We were looking forward to that. Every year we look forward to that show with Boyfriend, just because of the debauchery of it.
Yeah, it's just silly.
It's really a good time to let loose with your buddies.
Not that you guys aren't invested in it, but like it's a fun side project for you.
And we love her.
You get to kind of thumb your nose a little bit at the scene
just kind of
doing it.
Hang loose. Like it's not like a mechanical thing. You know what I mean? Where like, okay, play the show, get on the bus, go here. No, you show up here, you carry your own.
Yeah, That's one of those gigs where like, man, I sure miss having a road gig with a.
Well, that's not really true. We didn't carry our own, but we could have.
Yeah,
but we could have. But yeah, I look forward to that show every year, and it's a shame we didn't get to do it because.
We'll get to do it next time. Yeah. I assure you, we will get to do it next time. And speaking of other things besides the Revivalists that you are a part of, Tell me a little bit about Rumpelstiltskin, which it's not a new thing. You started Rumpelstiltskin after you had been in the Revivalists for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, the way that I grew up playing is, it's just all steel-driven, gospel, blues, that type of stuff. So I really wanted to kind of go back to that, mostly just for like my own, mental health. I don't want to say mental health, but like just kind of to complete who I'm trying to be as a musician.
And I think mental health is a good enough word for that. Like it's just a form of expression.
Yeah, and I wanted to express that part of who I am as a musician, and Rumpelstiltskin. It's just a funny joke. It was never meant to be like a big thing. It was just supposed to be like loose and fun.
But it's loose and fun. That's what people enjoy seeing when they go see music often.
And the band actually started during Jazz Fest. Me and Roosevelt were going to do a gig together.
All right.
And we got a gig, and we're going to do all gospel, blues-driven steel. Me and him going back and forth. And when I told him the band was called Rumpelstiltskin, he goes, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, Rumpelstiltskin. I think it's funny." He goes, "It's not that funny."
It's not that funny.
But like,
he's too cool, man.
Yeah, he's the best, man. But yeah, that was just like a gig. We had no, like, the whole thing of Rumpelstiltskin was, well, the way it started anyway, was no rehearsals, no songs, just go play.
Well, you guys have songs. You recorded an album, right?
We do now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about just the first
Yeah.
days.
When it first started, it was like me and George was in the band too.
Yeah,
now.
George. And I think Zach played in it. And
well,
it was,
Mike plays keys.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But you had Campanelli playing drums in the early days, though, too.
Yeah, he's played a couple of gigs, and it kind of switches up a lot. Like Dave Shirley's kind of our go-to, or Sam Shaheen.
Yeah.
Both amazing players. But yeah, the way it started, George used to say, it'd be like, "Oh man, you want to get together for a rehearsal?" He'd be like, "No, don't ruin the ethos. All right, don't ruin the ethos of Rumpelstiltskin.
Save it for the show, man. Save it for the show.
No rehearsals. We're just gonna go and we're gonna play. What songs you want to play?" No.
Let's move on a little bit to a little more recently. Last year, the epic gig of all gigs, as far as a support slot, opening for the Stones.
Dude,
about.
I literally just got goosebumps just thinking about it. Like, that was just an amazing.
You only did one gig, right? Just one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was it the Florida show?
Yeah, it was in Florida. We wanted to do the New Orleans one, but this is the way.
Soul Rebels and Dumpster Funk can have the New Orleans.
Yeah. Well,
one.
this is just the way the pieces fell.
Yeah. No. I mean, it could have been in Anchorage. I'm sure you would have said okay.
I will tell you, those Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, those guys, they're the coolest people I've ever met.
Really?
And
was there a lot of hanging out at all?
Well, we took a picture together.
Okay.
Hung out for a little bit, but they're the Stones. Like,
yeah.
they're probably
their own planets.
Yeah, I mean, every place they go, there's people all over them.
Mm-hmm.
They probably just want to be alone at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure it's it's strange to hit a certain level like they've hit after over 50 years of being one of the biggest names in rock and roll, or just biggest names in entertainment. Like, it's strange to think that they're even real people anymore.
I had that exact feeling when they walked into the room when we were gonna
it's
hang
like
out
that's a
and take the
lookalike.
picture.
That's not Mick
I was
Jagger.
Like, are you kidding me? I'm literally touching Mick Jagger and Keith Richards.
Yeah.
And Mick walks in, he's chewing gum. He goes, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, you have fun? You have fun? You have fun out there?" I was like, "That's Mick Jagger right
That's
there."
wild.
And we took a pic, and they were great. And they not only they put on a great show. I was very impressed at they're still dedicated to the fact that they still did their own soundcheck. They still did that. Like, they were there in the morning.
Yeah.
All of them themselves, working their own instruments, and I thought that they would have, people doing that for them.
150 people working for them on the road,
it's
right?
It's insane.
Like, how many trucks do they?
60, 18-wheelers coming in.
I saw the show in the Dome. I've never seen anything quite like it.
It's unbelievable. But they put on an amazing show, and that stage, the size of the stage is ridiculous. Like, there's do this one song called "Oh No," where me and Zach do a double solo, and we're both on wireless. I'll do my stand-up guitar.
Yeah.
And we're walking out. You know, it's a football stadium.
Yeah.
We're at.
Yeah.
So we're walking through, and you know, we're going. Me and Zach, we're doing our thing. Song ends. We look back. Me and Zach realize
that's 60
we're like
yards.
50 yards away from the stage. Me and Zach have to run
Oh,
back to the stage to get ready for the next song.
Oh,
you know what I
man.
mean? And
it's got a little carried away.
you know, if you're gonna get carried away, it might as well be at the Stones.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. You know, shoot for the moon. You know.
The fact that I got to play with the Rolling Stones is, you know, the piece de resistance.
Yeah,
of it,
that's bucket list type of thing.
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's for
even
sure.
just meeting them,
Yeah.
let alone.
No, that's the bucket. Like,
yeah,
that's the whole thing.
Forget the list. Yeah,
because it's not only that, you know, you get to play the show, but it's like a nod. It's like a tap. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
I mean, look at who else. You know, aside from Dumpster Funk and Soul Rebels, like they weren't picking just some random bands to play for them, and they weren't picking like some other epically huge band. Like, I know that the Stones are the biggest band in the world. Maybe the second biggest band in the world is like U2. It's not like they were just like shooting, just at the hip and like, hey, what other huge, massive international successes should we be touring with? No, they picked different awesome bands. I know, like Lucas Nelson and Promise of the Real opened up for him in New York.
Amazing
and
dude too.
I love Lucas Nelson. And that was just kind of random
We've
throw
done
out.
a bunch of shows with him. And,
Yeah?
and Willie, and but just the tap to be like, yo, you're in the club.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're in the club of
Mm-hmm.
like the thing that you've been working so hard your entire life and
Mm-hmm.
struggling years on the road. Tired, hungry. Not knowing if you're gonna make it. You've arrived.
Yes.
Yeah. You've arrived here, and
Yeah, you earned that 50-yard
you-
run back to the stage.
Yeah. I feel like the best shows are in front of like two people.
Sometimes.
You know what I mean? Where,
Sometimes.
Like some of our best shows from back in the day
Mhm.
is, you're playing who knows where, Northern California,
Mhm.
kind of like, road stop gas, we call it gas gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just to get to the next town.
Just to get to the next town. Where you're just like, it. Let's just
Mhm.
go off. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Let's
yeah.
just go off.
Yeah,
And-
those not only the most fun gigs for the band, but often some of the most enjoyable as an audience member. Sold out shows make a lot of money and they're great, but they're not very intimate and they can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, just physically uncomfortable being surrounded by that many people. When it's loose and it's casual and there's a good, a back and forth between the audience and the band, it really means something. And, some of the best shows I've ever seen in my entire life, aside from, shows here at the club, like you go to a place like the Maple Leaf that you can squeeze 150 to 200 people in there and it's crowded. But some of the best sets of music, like we talked about, Papa
Totally.
Gross Funk, or my favorite band in the history of all time, Johnny Sketch and the Dirty Notes. No offense to you guys.
No, I love hey man, you do your thing. right?
A
Yeah, Johnny Sketch is
45-person audience in the Maple Leaf is sometimes the most enjoyable show.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes back to New Orleans. You know what I mean? Like, look at like the Circle Bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you can fit 30 people in
you
there,
can fit
35.
30 people in there.
Yeah.
But like,
That's
on
where I
a
first saw
Tuesday,
Eric Lindell.
who is
he
also
crushed it.
another crazy good player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even in a little spot like that, whoever's playing is going to be good.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, like, you're at the Maple Leaf, it's 2 a.m, whatever. Flea shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
you know
like
what I mean?
something
Like,
ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
so you never really know what to
Yeah.
expect in this town.
Mm-hmm. You guys are a big enough band that you kind of get to do whatever you want creatively. Are there any goals that you still have? Is there anything you guys want to do as a band
Well,
that you're still working
whenever
towards?
we got asked this question, like, what are your goals growing up? We always wanted to be the first band to play on the moon,
Yeah?
but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Space Force, man.
Yeah.
You
But
may be able to.
I mean, I feel like every musician in any band, what's your goal? You want to be the biggest band in the world. You want to be the Stones.
Yeah,
You
I
know
guess
what I
you
mean?
want to be
So,
the Stones. Yeah,
I don't think any of us are satisfied until you're the Stones.
that's. I mean, that keeps you grinding.
Yeah, but then we also like, my motivation has changed over the years. Things that were very important aren't as important anymore. Now, family is really taken over.
Yeah.
As like the most important thing in my life. And I mean, now it's just like trying to balance. It's really a balancing act.
Yeah.
Before, when it was just us on the road, like that was it. That's the only thing you had to worry about. But now you have to.
You got a house, you got a kid, you got a wife.
You got a mortgage. You got health insurance. It's like how do I balance all these aspects of my life?
Well, aside
and still
from
be
that,
happy,
like you still have 7 brothers in your band that are family as well. So
oh yeah,
their
and
problems are your problems as well.
exactly. Well, one thing I think that's happened is we don't have to play 200 gigs a year.
Yeah, that's
anymore.
lucky. That helps. Yeah.
So when you were playing 200 gigs a year, you don't even have time to think about anything else. Like there's no room for anything.
Yeah.
Like I can't even watch Netflix, let alone worry about how do I buy a house or how do I worry about this or where's my son going to go to school.
Yeah.
But when you go from 200 gigs a year to 60, then all of a sudden you have all this time.
Yeah.
And you're like, what am I going to do with this time?
Yeah, you get to focus.
You get to focus. You do a lot of writing, but mostly it's just like I want to take care of my family. I want to spend as much time as I can with my son. He's 2 years old now, and every day with him is a blessing and a curse. But like for example, I grew up acting. I always wanted to act.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I'm not like big or anything. I was just being like plays, stuff like that.
Yeah? Were you any good?
No, but
you were as good an actor as you were singing.
yeah, but
right?
or like I always wanted to be like, my mom always says you wanted to be a stand-up comedian growing up.
Okay.
These are always things that I would love to pursue. They were always dreams of mine.
Yeah.
But now it's like I've already hit the jackpot with this dream. You know what I mean? So let's just concentrate on the important things here, which is taking care of my family and spending as much time as I can with not only my wife and my kid, but my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And my parents.
For sure. Muscle Shoals, recording at Muscle Shoals. If you wouldn't mind talking about that for a couple minutes.
No, that was a great experience. It's a very unassuming building.
Yeah, it's not fancy,
No, not at all. But you walk in, you can smell the history. I mean, you can just smell it. Like you look at a piano in the corner, and you're like, man, that was probably played on an Aretha Franklin song or something like that. It's just one of those places that really, like, I don't know what it is. There's just something about the room that just makes something special. And also, it was a departure for us from the last records we've done, which we did with producers.
Yeah.
This was just us getting into a room and rewriting the songs ourselves. So it was very old school.
So you didn't tap a producer to come help you
producer,
structure the album.
No, none of that.
Okay.
So like we basically, we'd get in a room, like me, Dave, and Zach would sit down, and we'd go over guitar licks. You know what I mean? And we'd be like, oh, I like that, or Dave and Mike would sit down, or Rob, and they'd go over horns, or Zach and whoever. You know what I mean? We would just do it ourselves. It was great for me personally to go back to the, you're creating this just you and your buds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get to turn the dial back. It was like it was in the beginning,
Yeah, and I mean, we're just restructuring songs we've already written, but they felt new to us,
Yes.
And I mean, it was a really great experience, just because like it's another one of those things, like you're kind of in the group of like people that have played in this room.
Yeah, it's definitely it's just like I say about Tippatinas, it's sacred ground. It's the type of thing that when
there's only a certain amount of places like that in the world.
Yeah. What other places have you guys played at that were like your, not to use this again, the bucket list type of venues? Like I said, sold out Red Rocks.
That the first
not
time
a
we
lot
did
of people
that,
get to do that.
That was an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Red Rocks, just looking out at that crowd. I mean, it's a beautiful view.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most beautiful stages,
Yes.
The concert venues in the country.
And it's a little nerve-wracking because everybody's telling you this is important. This is big. Don't this up. It's really what they're telling you. But I mean that was a great experience. I would say first time we played Jazz Fest was like that.
Yeah.
Bonnaroo, first time we did that was
Okay.
big. I would say for bucket lists that are left, like we were supposed to play.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys were, unfortunately, you had,
We had to cancel.
a wicked, awesome tour that you were supposed to do with Tank and the Bangers that you only get to do a couple of the dates before you had to cancel. And on that tour was Radio City Music Hall, as you
Yes.
said, which growing up in New York, I'm sure was, that's one of those places.
that was huge.
Mhm.
And we love the fact that they, were willing to tour with us and play with it because they're like huge in their own right.
Yeah, they were, the best album Grammy or whatever, up
they're,
against
emerging
Lizzo.
artists, they're
and
huge.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were willing to come out on tour with us, I was like, really?
Yeah,
You know,
when I saw that they were,
okay.
they did the announcement. They recorded a little announcement thing here. Dave and
Yeah, I was here.
and Tank. Yeah, you were here. A couple of y'all were here doing that little video, and it was like, holy, they're going on tour together. Like this is a bananas crazy tour. Like this is going to be huge. Because as big as you guys are and still getting bigger, they are right
huge.
behind you doing the same thing.
If not at our level or above.
Exactly,
You know
and
what I
it's
mean?
you're
So,
bringing different audiences
dude, they're
together.
up for a Grammy.
Yeah, yeah. Ain't no
For
Grammys
best
under your
emerging
belt, son.
artist,
Yeah.
against
how many
Billie
nominations
Eilish.
for a Grammy did you guys have?
I think we're up to like 37.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, something like
we're at 0. But yeah, I mean, Radio City Music Hall was the gig. I think that's really why, the entire tour was like, this is the jam right
Yeah.
here. Radio City Music Hall. We are going to tear the down.
Yeah.
And it didn't get to happen. It was like, I think we were in Minnesota. We just come out of Canada. I was sick as a dog, and my tour manager was like, all right, so this thing is happening called COVID, but we're gonna be all right. We're gonna do this. We're gonna finish out a couple weeks. We'll end at Radio City, and then we're taking a month off anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, fine. I'm not feeling well, so I'm gonna go to bed. 7 a.m. Bop, 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 on my hotel room. It's like, get up. You're going to the airport right now.
Oh wow.
I was like, what's going on? He was like, we're getting the out.
Oh man.
It is real. It's happening. Tank and them, they already left.
They're already on the road.
They're
yeah.
already on the road. You guys are on a flight. We are going right now.
Wow.
I mean, that's how quickly it happened.
Yeah.
We're on this
No,
amazing
things
tour.
were normal. I mean, we even here, we had a show that we were planning on doing 3 hours before doors was like, it was Big Sam's Funky Nation. They were
I love Big
they were
Sam.
plugging in and about to do sound check, and I had to be like, hey, sorry guys, we're still gonna pay you for the gig, but
Yeah. I mean, it was a real rude awakening because it was kind of like creeping. You know what I mean?
it was news, but it wasn't near you. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
happening
well,
here. There
it
was one or two cases, and it was
like our management was like, so this is a thing.
yeah, we all underestimated it early.
Yeah.
And
But when I got that knock on the door,
yeah,
I knew something was wrong because
Yeah.
everybody knew I was sick, and you're not going to be banging on my door at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
unless some is happening.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And when that bang happened, I guess I wasn't responding to texts or something. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
sleeping. But when that happened, and they were like, "You're going to the airport right now,"
yeah.
and I was like. Well, I think my first question was, "What about Radio City Music
What
Hall?"
about Radio City? Yeah.
And they were like, "Nope, not happening." I was like, "Well, I'll leave that on the bucket list."
Yeah.
I guess.
To next year. To next
yeah,
year.
let's hope. I think we've rescheduled it. I don't know what the date is, but
I remember I think yesterday after I was texting you about this, checking to see if you guys had just postponed. It seemed as if most of your dates are just postponed and not canceled.
yeah,
which is
we
the same
we
with
pushed
everyone
stuff
else.
to the fall. Everything we could.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean it's
We can
it's
only
gonna
hope.
be
Right.
postponed and then it's gonna be postponed again if it has to be and whatever else.
I
so.
mean, the worst. Here's the thing. As a musician, we're like way better off than most musicians.
yes, yeah,
And,
but your livelihood is still
Oh,
performing in
of
front
course,
of people.
of course.
You know.
But with all of our troubles, I'm like, well, how the hell is everybody else getting through this? And the answer is they're not.
Yeah,
which
no, it's
fucking sucks.
it's tough. Yeah, not to try and
All right, we're gonna get off
get
the
into
COVID.
yeah. You always have finance to go back on. Don't worry.
Yeah, you know
Got
what?
that-
I don't even think I remember how to. What comes after 8? I don't know.
Computers do it for you now. So let's go ahead and start wrapping up. We have a bit of a wrap up question that we've been doing on this. Since we are at Tippatina's, the sacred ground, the church itself. Do you have a first memory of coming to Tippatina's, and or any specific highlight early on that?
There's so many. You know what I mean?
Do you
Like,
remember the first band you saw here?
I think it was actually Papa Grows Funk.
Was it? All
Yeah,
right.
but the first like huge band that I saw here was Phoenix.
Okay.
I think it was like 2008, 2009,
That
maybe. I
rings
don't know.
a bell. Yeah.
But it was slammed.
Yeah,
Me and my
no,
wife.
packed show.
She's my, future wife at the time. We were practically standing in the bathroom trying to watch this thing.
No, when we used to have the vending machine in the photo booth, people were sitting on top of it. If I'm not mistaken,
it was insane. But I think it's Papa Grows Funk. But the first show that I actually played with any member of the Revivalists was Dave. Was me and him here. It was like a singer-songwriter thing that we were doing. So if it wasn't for that,
it was just that David Shaw.
it was a long time ago. It was Dave, and then I was just backing him up. It was just me and him. I think I was only backing up half the songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the first time I ever played with anybody in the Revivalists. I mean, the amount of great shows that I've seen here. I live down the street, just like you know. Like, I hit you up all the time.
Yeah, no,
I'm like, I need to get out of the house.
I see you at shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you guys aren't on the road,
This is where I go.
I expect to see you at least once while you're the few weeks that you're home.
No, but Tips is. I mean, this place is New Orleans music. It's. I mean, this room has been a lot to any New Orleans musician, let alone my life. It's been a very big influence on
That is
where
correct
I've gotten
answer
for sure.
That answer is correct. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Thank you to Tippatina's for allowing us to do this, and thank you to Nugs.net for the usage of their equipment. Ed Williams, I can't say enough good things about you. You're a swell guy, a good friend. Thank you for doing this, and anything that you ever need, please don't hesitate for a second. I will be happy to do it. No questions asked. Ladies and gentlemen of the Revivalists and Rumpelstiltskin, Ed Williams.
All right. Thank you. Everybody, calm the
We
fuck
didn't even
down.
cut to the audience. Well, all right. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Tanner, cut. Man, did that go all right?
Yeah.
That was an hour 15.
Oh, it's great.